Could the translators do a quick 10 count, first on English, then on French? Thank you.
This is the English channel. This is the interpreter speaking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Was that good? Testing the English channel. Testing, testing.
Could you do one more test, please, on English and then on French? Thank you.
Testing, testing. This is the interpreter. Testing. 1, 2, 3 on the English channel. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And shall I go to the French now?
Please go to French.
No, I want to switch. I was meaning to talk to you. Kayla did it? Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to start in about 1 minute. Bonjour tout le monde. On va commencer dans 1 minute. Merci. Good morning once again, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. En ce début de réunion, je souhaite, au nom du Conseil municipal d'Ottawa,
On behalf of City Council of Ottawa, I want to emphasize that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe-Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The City of Ottawa honors the peoples and land of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation. The City of Ottawa honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contribution to this land.
I want to welcome you all to our 2 committee meetings this morning, and I want to say a special welcome to all of the students who are here today as part of Take Our Kids to Work Day. It's great to have so many students at City Hall today, and I hope we don't bore you too much with our procedural stuff at the meeting today. I hope you get a real chance to see what happens at City Hall and the impact we have on our residents. So thank you very much for being here and welcome. I'll ask the committee coordinator now to do a roll call, please.
Councillor Luloff.
Present.
Councillor Dudas.
EC.
Councillor Curry.
Here.
Councillor Gower.
EC.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Councillor King.
Here.
Councillor Leeper.
Here.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Councillor Menard.
Here.
Councillor Giroux.
Here.
Vice Chair Kitts.
Here.
Mayor Sutcliffe.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Confirmation of minutes from our meeting on the 1st of October. Are the minutes confirmed? Item 4.1 is the 2024 mid-year procurement year in review. Is that received? Item 5.1 is the Adoke project update. Is that carried?
Hold, please.
Pardon?
Hold.
Okay. Item 6.1 is the provincial and federal multi-year accessibility plan. We'll hold that. Item 6.2 is the Accessibility Advisory Committee work plan. Is that carried? 6.3 is the status update for Finance and Corporate Services Committee inquiries and motions for the period ending October 28th. Is that received? Item 7.1 is the Heritage Community Improvement Plan application for 70 Richmond Road. Is that carried? Item 8.1 is the 2023 Business Improvement Area and Sparks Street Mall Authority annual reports and audited financial statements. Is that received? Item 8.2 is the designate leased spaces as municipal capital facilities. Is that carried?
Hold, please.
Oh, okay. All right, we will go back to item 5.1, which is the Adoke project update. Who was it that asked for that to be held? Councillor Brockington, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few quick questions about the source for these expenditures. The motion is clear. Item 2, it says that the 1.2 million will come from existing budget authority, and item 3, an additional budget authority of 600,000. Could staff just please clarify for me what the source of these two budget lines are? These being drawn from monies we've already set aside, and we're just now specifying how these monies are to be spent, or are these not budgeted expenditures and they have to be sourced from a particular budget line?
Mr. Mayor, so the 1.2 is part of the existing approved budget. The 600K is the additional, and this money will come from future restaurants and cafeterias type things from a rent perspective. So we'll set up a long-term liability, and as the revenue comes in through that, we'll draw down that liability and apply that to this project for the additional 600K.
So for that matter, the 600,000, is there a specific timeline on how that money is to be paid back? Is there going to be a clear understanding between the city and library on the 600,000?
Mr. Mayor, yes. So to start, what we've agreed to is we'll set up a 10-year time frame for that. But as we enter into these actual agreements, that's where we'll actually clarify and specify the actual, I'll call it the payment terms, and then the payment schedule for that. So that will be defined as we enter into specific agreements.
All right, that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Is the item carried? Thank you. So moving ahead to item 6.1, I believe we have a presentation on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we do. Before beginning the presentation, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank my colleagues in each city department, as well as Ottawa Public Health and Ottawa Public Library. The city's accessibility plans are coordinated through the Office of the City Clerk and our Accessibility Office, but they are a true citywide effort, and we would like to thank our colleagues for their collaborative effort on that front. I'll now turn it over to Tyler Cox, Manager of Legislative Services, to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the benefit of any residents who may be watching and interested in the accessibility report, my name is Tyler Cox. I'm the Manager of Legislative Services in the Office of the City Clerk. I'm joined by my colleague, Megan Richards. Megan is the Program Manager of Accessibility. We are pleased to present committee with the city's new accessibility plans. In keeping with the memo to council issued by the City Clerk on October 3rd of this year, this report in fact serves to fulfill two statutory requirements under two pieces of legislation, one being provincial and one being federal. Members of council will be most familiar with the first deliverable, which is the City of Ottawa's Municipal Accessibility Plan, or COMAP. This is a multi-year plan. This multi-year plan is a requirement under the Provincial Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. The City of Ottawa developed its first Municipal Accessibility Plan in 2003 under the previous Ontarians with Disabilities Act. As you'll see in the presentation and the report, the city's commitment to accessibility is high. The maturity level of the city's accessibility program is also high, including the collaboration that's happening across the organization, including all departments, and with the mayor and members of council. And we appreciate that very much. This is particularly evident in document 2 of the report, in which all departments across the organization have submitted accessibility initiatives, and it is a lengthy list. The city remains a leader in accessibility in the municipal sector and beyond. The second portion of the report is to satisfy a new requirement under federal legislation, being the Accessible Canada Act. Since Ottawa's transit services cross provincial boundary, the transit services are federally regulated. This is the first time the City of Ottawa has developed a federal transit accessibility policy, and we remain in touch with our counterparts in the City of Windsor and City of Gatineau, where they also have buses that cross international or provincial boundaries. We'll now walk you through the highlights of the two accessibility plans. So we can go to the next slide, please. Monsieur le maire et membre du conseil, le plan dont
Mr. Mayor, member of council, the plan that is tabled today is a strategy to prevent and eliminate all obstacle or barriers for disabled people. It replaces the previous plan, and as I said earlier, this plan is required by a provincial legislation. It is updated at least once every 5 years. Next slide.
Ce plan s'étend à toutes
This
les
plan
directions
includes all city departments, plus Ottawa Public Health and the Ottawa Public Library. The plan doesn't apply to the police department because they have a separate plan. The responsibility for monitoring and reporting on the plan falls within the office of the city clerk. All departments are taking part in the implementation of the standards of the OADA, and the Office of the City Clerk has oversight responsibility for coordinating compliance efforts at the corporate level.
Prochaine diapo.
Next slide.
Nous nous engageons à atteindre 3
We
objectifs
are
supplémentaires.
committed in these 3 goals: engagement of persons with disabilities in decision-making, diversity and intersectionality, and partnership with local organization to help accessibility move forward. Each year, we will continue to report to City Council and the Accessibility Advisory Committee of our progress, and we will report to the provincial government every other year.
Next slide. We'll now talk about the federal plan for transit.
Thanks, Tyler. As Tyler mentioned, this report also seeks approval for the first OC Transpo accessibility plan to fulfill our obligations under the Accessible Canada Act. The plan is written following the principle of nothing without us, ensuring that people with disabilities are included in planning and decision-making. This is also one of our key themes in the COMAP report as well. As noted, OC Transpo is independently and federally regulated, but meets the spirit and intent of the AODA. And as such, staff will continue to report through both COMAP and this new federal plan. It should be noted that there may be overlap in initiatives between the two due to this. Next slide, please. Also, under the Accessible Canada Act, OC Transpo is obligated to have an accessible feedback process, and to fulfill these obligations, the report includes the OC Transpo Accessible Customer Service Policy and Feedback Process. These came into effect in 2011. Next slide, please. To develop the plan, a review of existing barriers was conducted with extensive consultation with persons with disabilities, local organizations, and community groups, and the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And a full consultation report is included today. This engagement was done for both COMAP and the OC Transpo Accessibility Plan. OC Transpo, with the support of the Accessibility Office, is committed to making improvements as new information and practices becomes available. Next slide, please. The plan includes information on existing accessibility services, features, and commitments. The planned and long-term goals include determining the status of accessibility and barriers within its services, assessing how OC Transpo is working towards a Canada without barriers on or before January 1st, 2040, as per the goal of the Accessible Canada Act, and continuing collaboration with OC Transpo's senior leadership and employees across departments with the federal government, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and the public. Next slide, please. The plan will come into effect immediately upon council approval, and compliance information will be submitted by the city clerk under delegated authority. Responsibility for the implementation of the plan will be shared between the Office of the City Clerk and OC Transpo. As with COMAP, a legislated annual update will be provided to Council, with the next update due before June 1st, 2025. The Accessibility Advisory Committee will also be consulted on this annual update. That concludes our presentation today, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I know there is a motion from Vice Chair Kitts, so perhaps we could introduce that now, and then we do have one delegation as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can read it out and then just provide introductory remarks. So whereas on November 6th, 2024, the Finance and Economic Development Committee is considering a report titled Provincial and Federal Multi-Year Accessibility Plans. Whereas as part of the report, Recreation, Cultural and Facility Services has proposed an initiative to improve public access to accessibility information and amenities in existing parks and facilities. And whereas this information is an important priority for many families, including those with children and caregivers with disabilities, and whereas the municipality of Anchorage, Alaska has pioneered a comprehensive inventory and online story map for inclusive play, outlining best practices and a plan for creating inclusive playgrounds and prioritizing underserved communities, with the story map serving as a dynamic tool to showcase and track accessible playground improvements. And whereas innovative platforms such as the city's new 3D digital twin and Ottawa Police Services crime data visualization maps demonstrate the potential for engaging user-friendly online tools to convey important public information. And whereas the next regularly scheduled annual update to Council on accessibility plans is scheduled for Q2 2025, therefore be it resolved that as part of the next annual accessibility report, staff be directed to provide a detailed update on the progress of this initiative, including different options for presenting this information online. Example, ottawa.ca, maps, open data, resource requirements, timelines, and how the city will engage with the Accessibility Advisory Committee and families with disabilities, drawing on best practices such as those from the Anchorage Inclusive Play Model. Do you want me to offer a quick comment? Yeah, so I had the pleasure of being introduced to a report that Anchorage, Alaska put together, where they mapped their accessible and inclusive play assets across the entire municipality. So this motion is just asking that as part of the next annual report, staff report back on the feasibility of doing something similar for Ottawa. I do feel as though we could do a better job communicating about the assets that we do have. For example, I don't know if everyone knows there's a fully accessible playground in Ward 19. And I also think that by mapping our assets, we would expose where we do have gaps and where we could be doing more than just meeting AODA as a minimum. So I would love to see us as a city approach accessibility with the lens of making all of our parks as inclusive as possible. So I'm seeking your support and looking forward to what staff come back with. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kitts. We do have a delegation on this item from Kyle Humphrey. So if you'd like to come forward now, that would be great. Good morning. Welcome. Just please push the button at the base of the microphone and then you can get started. Go ahead.
Might help if I turned it on. Thank you so much. For those of you who may not know me, and at this point, that's probably none of you. My name is Kyle Humphrey. I'm an accessibility consultant that has the pleasure of living, working, and playing in the Ottawa area and have my whole life. Thank you for letting me speak to the 2025 to 2029 COMAP and the 2024 to 26 OC Transpo Accessibility Plan. There was a lot of material to absorb and summarize into 5 minutes, so I'm hoping you'll allow me a few extra seconds. There are some of the most important documents Council will approve, or these are some of the most important documents Council will approve. And I've noticed there aren't a lot of delegates to speak with me today. This speaks to the challenges that most people with accessibility challenges face, extra time to read documentation that may not be accessible, and the challenges to delegate. I've come today in person, but for many years, that hasn't been possible. From emergency council meetings to meetings that ran longer than expected, past participation in meetings left those with accessibility challenges out of the conversation. This shift during COVID-19 that allowed people to delegate virtually showed the city can and has done better. I want us to move forward to support those most affected by barriers. Reading the two key documents tells me the council is committed to moving forward. I want to commend the city's accessibility office for their comprehensive consultations. I felt heard when I read those documents. It is great to see we have our first OC Transpo accessibility plan. I understand this plan is mandated under federal legislation and is required to have certain elements, such as built environment and employment. But I feel that OC Transpo could have gone further. The COMAP, required under the AODA, went further. It included non-legislated goals. This is important in showing the organization isn't just required to complete a plan, but is committed to the people it serves. I want to acknowledge Paratranspo has made progress. The recent Para Talks were wonderful, and having traveled with the team to many events as a consultant, I had the opportunity to see a new Para bus, as well as hear from individuals who raised some concerns. For those dependent on Paratranspo, we need a commitment to same-day booking. We need to be allowed to make plans with friends on the same day, to take advantage of same-day doctor's appointments, to pick up a volunteer shift or a job, and get there on time so that we may keep that job. So the only source of income is an ODSP. To have equitable treatment with our peers whose biggest issue is transit services that allows them to get groceries in less than 90 minutes. At a recent transit commission, we discussed why seniors can ride free on conventional buses some days, but not on para buses. The response was financial, that we couldn't afford the cost. We need to stop seeing people with accessibility issues as a financial burden. If we want to move forward with the city for all, then we need to build in that cost. The council's strategic plan outlines it wants to be more livable for all and wants reliable, safe, and accessible mobility options. We need to invest and not make those of us with accessibility issues out as a burden. We don't want to be burdens. We want to participate, and that requires investment. Para is not the only thing preventing getting a job. It is also the lack of accessibility on our streets. Many businesses are not accessible. I know private businesses are out of the scope for the city, but providing access to jobs is important. I know the accessibility office reaches out to private businesses, and I hope that will continue. Access ramps and door openers are important. So are improvements to the city sidewalks and curb depressions. I note commitments in the detailed list of initiatives, and I hope we can accelerate this. This is important. I attended Lansdowne 2.0 meeting and was pleased to see the proposed improvements. Ensuring this complex is fully accessible is critical, knowing that many people with mobility difficulties frequently attend Lansdowne. I am pleased to see investment in a facility that sees 5 million visits a year. Everyone should have the right to enjoy the game with a friend, use the washroom, and potentially work at such a wonderful facility. If we want to build a city for all, we need places to work and play. An accessible facility for a place with millions of visitors and thousands of jobs is a great step in the right direction. I am pleased to see engagement, the work, and the results that have gone into these products. I am optimistic about COMAP and want to see more done with respect to OC Transpo. We are pushing in the right direction, but there is still so much to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for your delegation. We appreciate it. Councillor Tierney.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank Super Kyle for his engagement, not only here, but our East End colleagues who came out to our engagement as well. And I like this collaborative relationship we have, very focused on making a lot of those challenges that have existed for years hopefully disappear one day. So I just want to thank you for your hard work and making your comments in regards to accessible facilities too. I think that's very important.
Thank you. And I'm an East End boy, but if anyone wants me in the West End or the South Side, I'm open.
That's great. Thank you. Councillor Carr. Okay, Councillor Leeper.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. Kyle, good to see you. The comment that you made was with respect to being able to get groceries in less than 90 minutes. Can you describe the current experience of getting groceries using Para?
Absolutely. So Paratranspo, you cannot book your return trip. You can book your trip to the grocery store or to wherever you're going. You cannot book a return trip in less than 90 minutes. So if I want to just grab the milk, for example, and my grocery store is across the street, but trying to get there in the middle of winter, it must take Paratransport to get there. So if I want to just go across the street, I'm stuck waiting there. I've got the milk. I'm sitting there now waiting for my return home. And a minimum 90-minute booking time doesn't necessarily mean that the bus is going to show up on time at this time. So it really depends on the service that day and the number of people who have booked a trip.
Yeah, it's a significant hurdle to participation in all aspects of our city when Paratranspo has these sort of constraints on it. So I appreciate your continuing to raise those. And I expect that you'll probably be delegating to Transit Commission when we have our budget deliberations.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
Amazing. And I hope that we'll continue to hear sort of the concordance between what the plan says and how we spend our budget. Thanks for being here, Kyle. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Kyle, for taking the time to come here today. And certainly I've seen you at Accessibility Advisory Committee and at Transit, and I appreciate the concerns that you expressed today. I understand that the accessibility plan is prepared by OC Transpo really is, as you say, specific to those mandatory requirements that are required under reporting for the Accessible Canada Act. And I do agree it would have been nice to have seen that bigger commitment to Paratranspo issues for accessibility within the report. I do know, I don't know if we have transit staff here, I do know that I've heard Madame Amicard say that they really, really want to improve Paratranspo. And I know there's a lot of work to be done. You mentioned the need for same-day booking. I know Paratranspo does its best right now to accommodate same-day booking if you call on that. I don't know how often you use Paratranspo. I know you use conventional a lot. Have you ever tried to use that same-day booking, or do you know colleagues or friends that have tried to use it?
I have never tried because it's not mandated, so it's not reliable. I'm not going to schedule my day around something that I'm not sure of. And I unfortunately don't know anybody that has tried to use it at this point.
Thanks. Yeah, no, and it's not something that I could find that we even offer. I know they try to schedule if they can, but I certainly do appreciate the fact that we are on a very unequal playing field with those different elements, with having people with disabilities not being able to have the opportunity to pick up a last minute doctor's appointment or decide, or realize they desperately need to go to the grocery store that day and not have that opportunity. And the same with the lack of parity between the fares. I know you delegated previously about the fact that seniors are free on conventional but not on para, and that is a terrible discrepancy. But I was pleased to see at least that in a bid to make it more accessible, that the report did say we're going to improve the 1,800 outstanding inaccessible bus stops around the city. I don't really have any other questions for you, Kyle. You can reach out to me at any time to discuss these, but thank you very, very much for coming out today. I really appreciate always hearing your viewpoint and your positivity as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here, sharing your perspective. All right, on the item then, so first on the motion from Vice Chair Kitts, is that carried? And on the item as amended, is that carried? Okay, moving to item 8.2 on the agenda. I know it was Councillor Brockington that asked for that to be held, but he had to step away. Councillor Carr?
I actually had questions for staff on the accessibility piece, but I can just follow up with them after.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, we're on 8.2. Vice Chair Kitts, I believe you have some questions on behalf of
Yes,
Councillor
Councillor
Brockington.
Brockington sent me some questions to ask. Yes, thank you. So to staff, is there past practice for doing what is proposed, or is this a new initiative?
Mr. Mayor, so this is a practice that is allowed under Ontario regulations. It was not a past practice. It was something that was recommended through an audit, and staff have followed that recommendation, put it in place recently. The decision was taken to make the changes at the end of the lease because it has less of a impact on the property owners.
Okay, thank you. Next question, what benefit is there for taxpayers as a whole to provide private property owners a tax break?
Mr. Mayor, private property owners would charge the tax to the lessees, so that would be the City of Ottawa. The benefit to taxpayers is that there's a portion of taxes that are collected that are then remitted to the province. The Ontario regulation allows the entirety of those taxes to be to be protected, and so that results in an overall net savings to the city and to taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. And for the example of the Emerald Plaza, will the OPL receive a corresponding discount in rent since the property tax will be reduced?
The savings will go to the OPL. The OPL would be required to pay the taxes, and so there would be a overall savings to the department as a result of, to the library as a result of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kitts. Any other questions on that item? Okay, is that carried? Thank you. So we are going to move in camera, but just before we do that, under other business, there is an item that there is a motion from Vice Chair Kitts that we wanted to add to the agenda. So first of all, so it is about, it is waiving the market rent requirement for 3 Selkirk Street for 2 years. So first of all, on adding it to the agenda, is that carried? Okay, Vice Chair Kitts, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. Whereas the development project at 3 Selkirk Street will be done over 3 phases, ultimately resulting in 3 high-rise buildings of 22, 32, and 28 stories with approximately 1,100 residential units, 1,977 square meters of commercial space, and 1,694 square meter park. And whereas the site plan agreement, instrument number OC 2658658 has been registered, executed, and that agreement required the property owner to dedicate land for park purposes. And whereas the intent of the city was to acquire the park lands prior to the property owner commencing development, but to then allow the property owner to utilize the park lands for staging and other construction activity at a nominal rent value. And whereas City Council adopted a leasing policy on July 6, 2022 that requires market rent to be realized for any city land being leased or licensed. And whereas the annual market rate, rental rate to license the subject lands would be approximately $120,000. And whereas it is consistent with the site plan approval that the use of the lands be at nominal value, therefore be it resolved that Finance and Corporate Services Committee recommend that City Council waive the market rent requirement of the leasing policy and the retention of municipal parkland policy, and direct city staff to negotiate a license for 3 Selkirk Street and the subject lands at nominal value. Be it further resolved that staff be directed to include in the license of occupation a sunset clause of 2 years from the date of issuance, and should an additional license of occupation be required beyond those 2 years, it be value based on market rent or meet the policy requirements in effect at the time of issuance. Be it further resolved that the city ensures that the appropriate securities associated with the park parcel be held through the site plan agreement and the license of occupation.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Kitts. Councillor Leeper.
Thanks. I'm just, the use of the space would be subject to a nominal value. And I'm just wondering why we wouldn't charge something the equivalent on a square meter basis of a right of way or a similar encroachment.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to invite my colleague, our real estate expert, to come to the table to respond to your question.
Mr. Mayor, this is a bit of a, I'll call it like a chicken and egg, in that the developer has dedicated land to the city as part of the project. And the idea was that when he dedicated to, they were going to do it at nominal value. If they knew they were going to get charged a market rent, they would have held on to the land to use it for staging and dedicate it to us at the end of the project.
So why are they dedicating early?
Recreation and culture is encouraging for lands to be dedicated at the beginning of the project, and we're sort of working through that at a staff level to make sure that whether we had revised the policy to address this, or whether we do a different timing of when the land is dedicated. So we're going to work that out shortly.
Okay, so that'll be a policy piece that we see in front of us sometime in the next year or so?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, I can live with that. So nominal value, it's $1 or something like that.
Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. Is that carried? Okay, thank you. So we are going to move in camera on the cybersecurity update. So Vice Chair Kitts, if you wouldn't mind reading the motion to go in camera.
Lots of airtime for me today. Be it resolved that the Finance and Corporate Services Committee resolve in camera pursuant to subsection 13(1)A of the procedure bylaw, as the subject matter relates to the security of the property of the city, to receive a presentation on cybersecurity and the extent threat landscape, which is confidential and will not be reported out.
Is that carried? Okay, we will move in camera and resume in a few minutes. Okay, we're going to start again. For the benefit of those joining us online, the Finance and Corporate Services Committee just met in camera in order to receive an update on cybersecurity and the external threat landscape. These matters will not be reported out as they relate to subsection 13(1)A of the procedure bylaw, being the security of the property of the city. During the in-camera session, no votes were taken other than procedural motions and/or directions to staff. Are there any notices of motion? Are there any inquiries? Any other business? Okay, motion to adjourn. Carried. Thank you. We will take a short break and then we will start the joint meeting of the Finance and Corporate Services Committee and the Planning and Housing Committee in a few minutes. Thank you.